This video is sponsored by Chord Company, manufacturers of the speaker cables and interconnects used by a British audiophile. For more information about these and their other products, please click the link in the description. Last year, I finally got round to reviewing my first Rega product. I initially inquired about the Brio, Rega's best-selling electronics product ever. I was disappointed to find out that it had been discontinued, so Simon Webster, Rega's sales and marketing manager, suggested that I look at the baby brother. I'm really glad I did. The IO has excellent clarity and sense of timing. It's remarkable that it retails for £420 and is hand assembled at Rega's facility in the southeast of England. I was so impressed that the IO not only won my Top Outstanding award, but my Best Amplifier of 2024 award in the below £1,000 category. Supply chain issues and the need for a replacement had forced the Brio Mark VI into retirement. I knew it was only a matter of time before a replacement would be available, and the Brio is back. So what's changed, and why is the Brio Rega's most successful amplifier in their 52-year history? The fancier curved gloss front panel of the Brio Mark VI with a partially chrome volume knob has gone. The more industrial fascia of the Mk7 is consistent with the IO. It's quite a bit bigger than its little brother though, although still not much larger than a shoebox. Measurements are 216 by 79 by 365 millimeters or 8.5 by 3.1 by 14.4 inches, weighing 4.9 kilograms, that's 10.8 pounds. The unit is well constructed and I like the simple functionality. There's a power on-off button, a 3.5mm headphone socket and an input selector button to toggle between 4 analog and 2 digital inputs. Yes, that's right, this is the first Brio amplifier to feature a built-in DAC. My only gripe is that when you power down your source, the amplifier detects that there's no signal and the digital input indicator keeps blinking until the unit goes into standby about an hour later. The volume dial has a nice weight and a smooth feel to it. The Brio Mark VII also comes with a remote control. The high button count is because it can be used with other Rega products. A lack of frivolity is confirmed on the rear. There's an input for the built-in moving magnet phonostage, 3 RCA line level inputs and 2 SPDIF digital inputs, optical and coaxial. I'm impressed with the quality of the speaker binding posts. They're all metal. Most competitor amplifiers at this price have terminals with plastic casings. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot packed into this half rack width unit. There's a 160 VA toroidal transformer and 2 Rega branded power supply filter caps rated at 10,000 microfarads each. That's acceptable for an amplifier specified as 50 watts per channel into 8 ohms and 72 watts into 6 ohms, but no 4 ohm rating is provided. The power amplifier circuit is essentially the same as the Brio 6, but with some component upgrades and a layout that has been improved to lower distortion. Lessons learned during the development of the IO, which has a very similar circuit, but a smaller power supply offering 30 watts per channel into 8 ohms. There are 2 Sanken STD03 output devices per side in a regular push-pull configuration. The STD03s are well-regarded Darlington transistors with built-in temperature compensating diodes to help maintain stable biasing conditions. A moving magnet phonostage was also integrated into the previous generation Brio. It's simple but well-regarded, deploying Muse's op-amps, which are also used in the preamp and DAC stages. An integrated DAC is new to the Brio, but the chip isn't. The Wolfson WM8742 has been around for about 16 years, but still preferred over ESS and AKM by some manufacturers for a more organic sound quality. As the first Brio amplifier to feature a DAC, Rega were keen to point out that a lot of care was taken to ensure that it didn't compromise the sound quality of the amplifier and performed up to expectations. Let me put it this way, if the Brio is just a more powerful version of the IO with better ability to drive speakers, it'd be an excellent amplifier, and that's exactly what it is. I was quite frankly stunned by the clarity and mature tonality of the £420 Rega IO. However, I had to work hard to find speakers to showcase those abilities whilst not exposing its apparent lack of power. Speaker designers aren't stupid. At lower price points, designing a speaker that's easy to drive is as much of a consideration as chasing the last word in fidelity. I'll get into the ribs of specific speaker pairings in the next section. For now, let's focus on the sound characteristics of the Brio 7 and how it compares to other amplifiers. The bass is nicely balanced between weight and definition. It has a juicy quality to it, but still motors along nicely. The high frequencies are also very well expressed. I wouldn't describe them as ethereal, but you don't get the sense that anything is missing. But it's the mid-range that's the real star of the show. There is such exquisite detail and texture to the beginning, middle and decay of notes, and it all emerges from a background that's darker than I've heard from any amplifier below £1,000. The overall tonal balance is a little mid-centric, as was apparent playing one of my rock favourites, Curse of the Traveller from Chris Rea's Dancing with Strangers album. His gravelly voice and rich Fender Stratocaster took central stage and were projected in front of the speakers, whereas accompanying performers forming the rhythm section fell in line with the transducers. The lack of soundstage width and depth is my main criticism of the Brio Mark 7, but there's plenty of body in the bass and the mid-range to make things sound intimate and engaging, rather than aggressive and fatiguing. My £349 Cambridge Audio AXA35 throws out a wider soundstage and has more conventional layering front to back, but in terms of resolution and bass control, it falls short of the Rega Brio Mark 7. My £449 Iota VX SA3 has slightly better bass control than the Rega Brio, but is also outclassed with a thinner mid-range, flatter soundstage and less timbre to notes. Those are two great amplifiers that don't disgrace themselves in comparison to the Brio, but the Rega amplifier justifies the extra outlay here due to having better fidelity. The Cambridge Audio CXA61 is a more natural competitor at £699, but is regularly on sale for less. Like the Brio Mark 7, it comes with a built-in DAC that's emitted from the junior AXA35. It doesn't have quite the mid-range resolution of the Brio Mark 7, but sounds bigger and has a distinctly warmer tone. The Audiolab 7000A will also deliver increased scale and dynamics. It has significantly better control in the bass and of mid-range transients, but imparts a drier tone. The 7000A is £1,100. It's more likely that this Brio Mark 7 at £799 is going to get cross-shopped against the new Audiolab 6000A Mark II that retails for £699 and is over there. I've just completed the run-in process and started comparative listening tests, so that review is coming. Anyway, enough about this Rega as a straight amplifier. All my comments here relate to using the RCA inputs. How good is the built-in DAC, and what else do you need to get the best out of this Brio? To ensure there were no limitations placed on the signal upstream, I ran most of my listening tests using my Elac Denafrips digital front end that retails for about £5 but that is not a price appropriate source, so I ran a number of tests with something more suitable. The excellent Bluesound Nano would be my suggestion for the ideal digital source component to feed this Rega amp. Despite its £299 asking price, it still outperforms any streamer or CD player I've currently reviewed below £1,000. I'd use the DAC in the Nano rather than the Brio though. It sounds a bit cleaner with a more focused soundstage and better spatial presentation. For the less technically minded, I'm suggesting not to connect a digital optical or coaxial cable between the Nano and the Brio, but rather use an RCA analog cable between the two. For lesser quality digital sources, you may well want to take advantage of the Brio's internal DAC. It's more than enough to get you started. Rega were true to their word. For a basic Wolfson DAC, it's very well implemented. Getting the speaker choice right is also critical. Where the Rega IO struggled to drive my £1,500 Amphion Argon 1s, the Brio sounded like the shackles had been loosened. It did a respectable job, considering these are 86 dB sensitive speakers into a nominal 8 ohm load, But the Brio is no powerhouse, and there was some softening to the leading edges of notes. I've heard the Amphion Argon ones sound cleaner, crisper and more dynamic with some other amplifiers in this class, and that's likely down to some limitations in maximum current capability in what is essentially a very compact amplifier. That said though, the leaner tone of the Amphions was well matched to the fuller bass and mid-range of the Brio. Switching to my reference mini monitors, the Dali Mini SEs that also retail for £1,500 turned out to be an inspired combination. Now I could truly hear what makes the Brio Mk7 special. The mid-range quality of this amplifier was on full display with these uber resolving and easy to drive speakers. If you can run to £1,500, this is an excellent pairing for relatively small spaces. For larger rooms and tighter budgets, the £799 Monitor Audio Silver 100s make an ideal partner. I'm sure the smaller Silver 50s would do equally well where real estate was at a premium. The Silver 100s have phenomenal detail for the asking price, and thanks to a generous sized cabinet coupled to an excellent 200mm 8-inch mid-woofer, they're specified as going down to 35 Hz in room, which means that very few people will be opting for a subwoofer. Sometimes the 100s can sound a bit clinical with certain amplifiers. There wasn't even a hint of that with the Brio Mk7, thanks to the Rega amp's ability to flesh things out. If you're considering alternatives, my blanket advice would be not to skimp on the quality of the source and choose the most resolving price appropriate speakers you can justify. As long as they're fairly easy to drive, you should be fine. Rega's latest incarnation of the Brio builds upon the strengths of the excellent IO, adding more power to deliver greater control over a wider range of speakers. The inclusion of the DAC adds flexibility and is successfully implemented. It's not just there for convenience. I'll allow others to give their testimony on the phono stage, but I know it's well regarded. Mid-range clarity, body and texture are class defining, and the bass and highs are no slouch either. The consumer benefits from the Brio being reintroduced into what is a very competitive market sector. There may be amplifiers that will give you more grip and authority over your speakers and a wider and deeper soundstage, but I doubt they'll have the ability to pull you into the music the way that the Brio can, and that's why the Rega Brio Mk7 gets a very highly recommended from this channel. My question for today is, what product would you like to see introduced or re-released if it's been discontinued from your favourite hi-fi brands? Please let me know in the comments section. I'm sure you know what to do by now if you want to support me here on what I do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Check me out on Patreon. There's a couple of tiers you can access there if you think I can help you on your audiophile journey. Also check out the ABA Club on Patreon, which has some great ways to interact with me and fellow patrons. But for today, for now, British Audiophile, signing off.